There's a really hot topic going around the internet right now and in medical offices everywhere, I'm sure. The topic of parasites, super fun to talk about and maybe not always so fun. And, time your conversations accordingly when you're talking about parasites. For me, though, this is a regular topic in the clinic every day. And what I've been noticing with the testing that we do in my clinic is that especially the last few years, there is more and more people having parasitic issues in their body. So these are things that I contemplate at all hours of the day sometimes. Why is this happening? Why am I seeing this way more? And so with a lot of the layers that will be happening in people's bodies and different illnesses and things, parasites can often be implicated. And, especially things that are cyclical in the body that continue to rotate, and maybe you feel symptoms for a few weeks and then they kind of get better. And it doesn't have to be just limited to digestive issues or gut issues. It can be inflammation in the body. It can be brain fog. It can be fatigue, tiredness, poor sleep, like any number of things, soreness, inflammation in the joints. There's almost nothing that can't be influenced by parasites in some way. It just depends on what are they, how influential is it in the body, how intense are some of these infections in the system, and what is the state of health of that individual overall anyway. So when I've really been working on these factors and trying to discover why is this happening, these are the questions. It is way more. It's not just a little bit more. It is way more. It's becoming so vastly common to see patients that are dealing with parasite issues. This is not something that we were taught in school years ago. We touched on some of these things, but as I've dove deeper into each of these cases, there has been some connecting dots. There's been some insights, and that's what I want to share here. So from a high level view, when we look at our food systems, by and large, huge food system depletion of nutrients is happening at a global scale. Soils being massively depleted. It doesn't contain the mineral or vitamin content and the richness that it once did in many, many aspects of farming and topsoil. And so those plants that you're eating, the things that are grown in soil that is depleted, it's not nutrient dense. So you might be getting food that is already deficient in minerals and nutrients, antioxidants, vitamins, enzymes, all the things that we actually need to have a really healthy functioning ecosystem in our bodies, that inner biodiversity. So then when that starts dropping, there's interesting things that happen. You become more susceptible to infections because your body is not nutrient dense anymore and you lose biodiversity. Your inner flora starts to get really out of balance. So that's a big factor. One of the other factors is, and that's just on, plant kingdom foods and things like that, produce, animal products as well that we eat, meat and other things. The animals themselves are often getting fed nutrient depleted food. So they're getting these, massive monoculture crops that are often very devoid of nutrition. They don't have the minerals or nutrients because it's also grown in depleted soil by and large. So then when the animals are eating these things, they're not as healthy. They're not as robust. Their inner ecosystem and biodiversity is very subpar. And then when we consume that, we're also getting nutrient depleted food. So whether it's animal products or plant products, this is happening across the board. So the other thing that happens for the animals, if you're consuming animals, they can get parasites going on in their systems too. And what I've noticed over the years is that if you are depleted in mineral content, antioxidants, vitamins, basically deficient in lots of places in your body, you will be way more susceptible to taking on infections of all kinds, parasites included. They thrive in environments that are not mineral rich. So if there's unhealthy inner soil in your own body, you're not going to have the same walls of the castle up that you normally would. And so the animals of the things that you're consuming, that's happening for them too. So basically what I'm saying is the animals are carrying way more parasites and infections. We consume that in our system, and especially if it's meat and it's undercooked or anything like that, your susceptibility is going to go way up. And then you being a nutrient depleted human, if that's the case, you're going to likely take on a lot of those infections much more than you would if you had a really strong buffered system in your body. Your body would have the resources to clear off that stuff, kill it off, your gut lining intact, not leaky gut, which is a massive phenomenon in our society right now. So this is the multi-layered element of where we find ourselves now, where people are housing huge amounts of infections in their bodies, especially gut level toxins, especially parasites. And there's the big picture, like link in the chain, that we've become so depleted that we do not have the defenses that we normally did, nor are the products that we're taking in, they don't have the defenses that they used to either. So you can see it's a compounding effect. So yeah, one of the things you can do is parasite cleanses and detoxes and things like that, but they'll keep reoccurring if you don't sort out the root issue. And I think on this topic in general, this is why food is becoming so important. Where your food comes from, how it was grown, how it was raised. Is it nutrient dense or not? Does it actually have any food value inside it, or is it actually depleting your system more? That's like a huge topic of nutrition that has a direct correlation to toxicity load in the body, no doubt about it. And especially on the toxicity side, if you're eating food that is not organic or unknown source, that you don't know the farmers or you don't know what they've put on the fields or fed the animals, generally speaking, you're going to be getting a massive amount of chemical toxicity. This is not new information. This is not a surprise. I think what is being looked at and faced by way more people now is that when you bring in massive amounts of chemical toxins, synthetic chemicals, it affects your health directly. Of course it would. It really affects the biodiversity of your ecosystem within your body. And when that happens, your immune system gets compromised, your brain function, your nervous system gets compromised. The amount of anxiety can go through the roof as a result of these things because the inner ecosystem is so out of balance, and essentially you're becoming poisoned. Overload of chemical toxicity, metals, many other elements that are in our environment, and we are being bombarded by more toxins than we've ever experienced before. The human genome is definitely affected by that. Your epigenetics are affected by that. The way that you communicate and the way that you go out into the world, because your energy is being depleted and essentially leaking out of the body because of the heavy duty toxicity. So on both sides, if you're taking in nutrients that are devoid of minerals, trace minerals, elements, antioxidants, enzymes, all those aspects that we need, and you're taking on toxins at the same time, no wonder we see epidemics of all kinds of illness, autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. Like you could name every autoimmune category is on an exponential increase. Allergies, food sensitivities, intolerances to things. So I find that very interesting that there's so much food intolerance. Is it actually the food, or is it that there's so much chemical toxicity in the food? Our bodies are wise. They don't become intolerant to things for no reason. Certainly our mental emotional picture, how we think about things, how we feel about things is very, very powerful. And when you're bringing in really beautiful, nutrient-dense foods that are organic, free of chemicals, free of pesticides, all those things, you're going to fare way better. But you also need to look at the soil health and how rich it is or not, because that's going to change everything with your body. So you can feel like you're eating all the fruits and vegetables that you want, but if they are full of chemical toxicities, chemical residue, plastic residue from irrigation pipes and everything else, and then maybe they're flown thousands of miles and they're sprayed with chemicals and other things that help preserve them, you're taking in a lot for your body, and it's going to make it harder on your system to cleanse and clear and detox properly. And as that builds up over time, what do you think is going to happen? Of course, your body's going to start producing inflammation and symptoms that lead to many more issues. At the end of the day, I know I'm sharing some things that are not fun to talk about. They can be a bit scary. People ask me then, what do I do? Where do I get food from? I think we need to go back to more simplicity, more simple living practices, which is something I've seen a lot the last few years. People are going back to starting their own little farms. They're growing gardens. They're buying greenhouses. They're going to farmers markets. Those are all really accessible steps, even at a low level. There's been different things I've been seeing online as well, where the amount of grass and lawns that we have in our society, especially in North America, it's a lot. What if we grew food in those spaces instead? We could feed ourselves fairly well. And so a lot of the practices of gardening and growing food in some cases have been lost. In some cases, it'll be completely new for you, but we're innovative. We are a powerful species, and we can manifest all kinds of things, good or bad. So what if we directed our energy and focus into cultivating and learning how to get our hands in the dirt again, learning how to garden again, learning how to grow food, be way more involved in the process? Your mind and body then can start interacting with all of the unique biodiversity in the soils that you're working in with the plants. It gets you outside. You can grow things indoors too. There's a lot of technological advancements for growing plants and produce inside. That could be easy if you live in an apartment, you don't have any green space. So what I'm saying is there are steps available to be able to start remedying these things within your body so that you're not spending thousands of dollars forever buying parasite cleanses and supplements over and over again to try and combat the imbalance in the system. I'm not saying don't do those things. I'm just saying be mindful of the bigger picture of how did we get here? How did we get to a place where we're very nutrient depleted and then our bodies become really susceptible? And then we're just trying to combat the symptoms and the inflammation without looking at the other side of what are we bringing in? What are we exposing ourselves to? We don't have to be perfect. We're not going to avoid all the toxins no matter what you do. So please don't stress about this too much. I know it's easy for me to say. One of the greatest antidotes to fear is action. Just take a simple step, take a simple action. Start buying a little bit of organic food. And you might say, I can't afford it. It's too expensive. You can't afford not to at this stage of the game. Your body will only tolerate so much chemical toxicity for so long. And knowing that you could have done something about it years prior, even changing your diet 5%, 10%, be strategic with your shopping. Be strategic with what you're consuming. Maybe all the things, not all the things, maybe some of the things you buy, you don't need. How many TV subscriptions do you need? How many movies can you possibly watch? And so this is also the theme of simplicity that I've been employing in my life. Where can I, dissolve or cut out minutia and cut out different things that are not essential to my health or my well-being or my living? Where can I declutter things? Not just in my mind, but in my body and in my space. And moving more into that minimalistic approach, it is actually really calming for the nervous system. We don't get as overstimulated with some of the world around us. And then when you do take in beautiful food and nutrient-dense quality food, your body's going to start humming with power and potency that maybe has been forgotten. Maybe you've forgotten how much vitality and how good you can actually feel. So choose accordingly. It's your life. Do what you want. I'm not putting pressure on anybody. I just wanted to illuminate some of these pieces that I've been seeing in the clinic for years and years and years, and it's becoming more clear. We can't ignore these things anymore. You can choose to do that, but you may pay the price with your body. And I don't want that for you. I want everybody to be healthy and vital. It's available. And as we pay attention to these things more, as we create more opportunity for each of us with even local food co-ops, organic gardens, with friends maybe that have land, maybe you can ask them to, plant some produce and help look after things. It also brings us back into connection with what we're taking in. And I think that's been lost in a really, really big way, both on the mind and body level. Be discerning about what you allow and accept and take into your body. Your body will thank you.